It's a Friday. I just realized it's Friday, which means that we have to do some things here. All right. Hang on. I was completely and totally unprepared for this. Realizing and remembering that it is in fact a Friday. So, I have to do the appropriate things here to get things, to get the show kicked off appropriately. I mean, it's we got to do some things.
Well,
come on, man.
Ants! Ants!
Go for it, dude.
It's Friday! Friday! Friday!
You know it. It's a Friday, so everything's on the tables. We get you ready for the weekend, and that includes what happened yesterday while we were discussing things. We bring in Bart Keeler for a quick hitter this morning. Bart, things are still kind of unofficially official. Yeah, we're going in this direction, and nothing's signed. But in the, let's say, 24 hours since Mauricio Pochettino has been announced that he will be accepting, and I feel like I have to use my verbs and participles correctly here, that we anticipate that he will be the next USMNT head coach. What is the feedback that you've been getting over at Soccer for US POD? What's the vibe been like?
Well, it matches the mug this morning, and
Which
says, "Make it happen."
There you go. Okay. Engage number one.
And that's where I'm at, John, is that was the theme, it seemed like, for U.S. soccer. Probably after the first week after Berhalter was fired, when we kind of got the low-level names. No offense to Trundolo, no offense to those guys. But then the names started getting steadier and steadily more just prominent, I know the Klopp thing was out there pretty quickly. That was probably a fat chance anyway. That was just let him enjoy his
dude said no. Yeah. What part of give me a year do you folks not understand?
And that's fine. But ever since then, even the guys like Renard, who we talked to, Vieira, Henry, like those guys have names that carry weight beyond a decent stint in MLS. No offense even to Wilf Nancy, but you started hearing names that made you get excited. Like even Rafa Benitez was a guy who, okay, sure, maybe hasn't had a great run of form or run of luck really with his last couple of stints, but a guy who clearly knows how to manage a team at the top level and probably could get more juice out of this orange from this team. But now that you have the opportunity, because he was unemployed, because Chelsea is a mess, and I do want people to understand that Mauricio Pochettino leaving Chelsea by what seems like true mutual consent
yes,
is because Chelsea Football Club, and it gives me all the pleasure to say this, is in a state of disarray. But we will gladly take their coaches.
Yes.
And it's just signals that U.S. soccer, for some reason, between the hiring of Greg Berhalter for the second time and 2 weeks after they fired him, realized, we have to take 2026 extremely seriously.
What? No.
Let's go get a guy who can at least revive the excitement within the fan base, bring in possibly new eyes to go, Pochettino's coaching this team now. And that is a good thing to see from U.S. soccer.
And there's the discussion, and you mentioned the mess that is Chelsea. And
No offense to any, actually, full offense to any Chelsea fans, but
yeah,
y'all are a mess.
as the
As
Arsenal
a
fan,
Arsenal fan.
yes, yeah, as he gets ready for the Premier League season.
Today,
So
John,
yeah,
happy Premier League opening day.
I know, and we'll be getting into that after 9:45. Michael Parker's joining us at the bottom of the hour for a little bit.
At least Manchester United have a chance now that Fulham's lost their best fullback or center back.
Oh, I know. I mean, it is the palace intrigue of the Premier League. We'll be getting into that. It is a situation. Then we got into it yesterday that once again defies logic. Ergo, Bowley, Clearlake, and Chelsea go right to the front of the line. It seems that Mauricio Pochettino cannot take a new gig because he is still owed money by Chelsea. And usually it's the other way around. It's like if I owe money or if I don't want money that's on my contract, then we'll have billable hours and we'll talk about it. But because of the money that is owed, however much it is, he still can't take a gig. And it's like, look, I've got a gig right here. Look, here. It is the fisherman in the, what is it, the Geico ad with the dollar bill that's stuck on the fishing line. Oh, got $1. Oh, you just missed. It's one of the,
I know
literally,
exactly which one you're talking about.
that's where we are right now. It's like, look, let him go. I feel like there should be a chant somewhere on the East Coast of the United States. All the U.S. soccer fans should just line up on the Eastern Seaboard and just go, "Let him go, let him go." And that way, just figure it out, man. The fact that he's owed money and can't take a gig, it's a unique situation. I'd love to be in that kind of a gig where I'm owed money and can't go anywhere to my new gig that I want. But right now, it's a holding pattern. I'm sure that's driving folks crazy. But, taking Emma Hayes from Chelsea while she was still employed, and then Mauricio Pochettino from Chelsea while he still owed money. I mean, it says great for what Bowley Clearlake is able to do when it comes to bringing in individuals. But when it comes to the stuff on the field, it's an entirely different matter. When we'll be optimistic here. We'll be optimistic when Mauricio Pochettino takes over for the USMNT. How different do you anticipate it being with him in charge, whether it's personnel, rosters, those kinds of philosophical things? How different are you looking at it here?
Well, first off, we need the great American Todd Bowley to do us a favor and just cut that check.
Bruh. Cut the check.
Because to Roper's point, we do need him by September. And the reports I've seen have been kind of mixed of if he'll actually coach. I mean, originally, I think, not even a week ago, U.S. Soccer kind of hinted that it's okay if it takes longer than getting him in right before the September window. I disagree. I think we need to get him in as soon as possible. But the fact is, John, that I don't think you're going to see a whole different. It's not like we're going to run 23 new guys out there. The reality is this U.S. soccer program has about 15 guys who ain't going nowhere, possibly 18, possibly 20. That's just the reality of our player pool, that while we have a lot of talent in the pool right now, and while there are plenty of guys who are playing in Europe, that isn't enough anymore.
Yeah.
And your standard does have to be higher. And the reality is that the guys who we saw, for the most part, starting in Copa America are the best players we could put out on the field. Now, that said, I think Poach will probably want to find some of those backup depth pieces, maybe expand who he trusts a little bit more, because was the issue with Berhalter, is he kind of felt like he had, a small handful of guys who he truly trusted and wanted to keep at all cost. That will definitely change. There are certain positions where I think maybe you're looking at, okay, what does this mean for me? Tyler Adams may be still, recovering from back surgery, but he's a guy where I do wonder if that is someone, if Johnny comes out, has a good season, right? If Tanner Tessman somehow magically becomes a really solid in possession player and becomes a guy who can truly be a ball winner in the midfield in Serie A, those are guys that can possibly leapfrog Tyler Adams. There are a slew of center backs, none of whom are particularly standout, that have a chance to grab at least one, if not two, starting spots. But the reality is there's not a whole lot of other places on the starting 11 that are up for grabs. Even McKinney, he could be sitting without a club, and he's still probably our best, if not second best midfielder.
So then there was another issue that was brought up yesterday, and that had folks in a lather, not all, but some. The idea that Mark Ogden brought up from the four-letter that Mauricio Pochettino, if he so chose, could stay with a base. He could be in Europe, and he didn't have to move to the United States to be the USMNT head coach. If he had business to take care of, like if you're looking at players and things, you could stay in Europe. You could stay locked in there. You didn't have to move. What's your thought on that, considering that most of the dudes in that top 15 to 18 are in Europe, and frankly, it would be cheaper for him to fly from wherever he is, wherever he wants to be, if he's got a house, in London SW3, EG8, than, to, hop a flight and go check out a Ligue 1 match or something.
Yeah, I mean, look, if I were him and I could afford to keep a house of some sort,
If I could keep a flat,
I could keep a flat in either London or Paris, and I love my city, Atlanta. I would do so.
Right.
But I think there is some level of he'll probably have a place here, probably a small condo that US Soccer will probably own, which would make sense for US Soccer.
Yeah.
While staying in Europe, because you're right, the majority of the players are going to be in Europe, and the whole point of scouting untapped talent is a lot of other people's jobs until it gets, in theory, is a lot of other people's jobs until it gets to Pochettino's desk, and at that point, sure, he can make he can fly back here. But the also thing is, I don't know if you know this, John, but MLS Season Pass on Apple TV works on any device anywhere.
So I was not aware of this.
Yeah, just get the man an iPhone and he'll be able to, or an iPad or something, and he'll be able to watch any MLS game on there. And I'm sure we could find a way to get him some USL games to watch some of that untapped young talent. So the reality is, yes, for me personally, you need to have the ability to be in Atlanta when we have training camps, because as the National Training Center comes, you're going to need to have that. So I think he will probably spend more time in Atlanta than he's thinking. But good morning, Abby. He will be spending a lot of time in Europe scouting, mentoring. That's the other thing that I think can be very beneficial to a lot of these players. Mentoring the U.S. men's national team players and getting a better idea of what it is that this team is and can be. Oh, there you go, Bam. Didn't realize USL was on YouTube. Good for them. But as the National Training Center does start coming to actual fruition here in Atlanta, he will need to be at all the training camps, not just the senior team. I want him there at the U20s and 17s so that he can just be watching, right? I need him to be Bobby Bowden high in the tower watching the actual coaches do their jobs, right?
If we could get a dad gummit out of Mauricio Pochettino, I'd be a happy man.
Well, I was joking the other night, while I was recording, talking about the U.S. women winning gold. Do you think Emma gets her own golf cart?
Oh, absolutely.
So I think that needs to be part of the contract for all coaches.
Absolutely. You get your own golf cart. You could trick it out however you want. And
yeah.
I mean,
trick my cart.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that'd be absolutely epic. And so, topic for your next Soccer for US POD. So with the training center being built on the south side, where's the condo that they give Mauricio Pochettino? Is it still in Buckhead, or do they do something on the south side for part of renewal on the south side?
Yeah, I don't think it's Buckhead. I wouldn't be surprised if it's
downtown,
somewhere in downtown. Possibly it's a house in somewhere between College Park and West End, or, and this is really crazy, Trilith has a collection of homes down there, from what I've been told. It's a little out of my price range, John.
Yeah,
but that is an option. But I do think the reality is, for me, anyway,
Mm.
U.S. Soccer will buy some sort of living abode
Yeah.
here in the city for Poach to live in. I do wonder. I know his children. I'm pretty sure are, like, grown, but I wonder if he wants a house, if he'll be comfortable in a condo. Obviously, living situations in Europe are very different than here, but I'm wondering what he will be comfortable with. Is it a townhouse? Is it a condo? Is it a the penthouse of a high rise here? We'll see.
So, the key for you and a lot of folks is that he's here, and once again, operating under the assumption that Chelsea will end up paying. I could see it right now. I literally, I'm just in that kind of a mood on a Friday. I could see it right now where, Bowley Clear Lake, they're looking. It's like, man, we're looking under the cushions of the couch. All we're finding is couch pizza. We can't find the $10. Look, we got like,
I'm
we.
curious how much he's owed. I think
Mhm,
that is a question that I do have as what are we talking about here?
mhm. Is it
Is it a couple thousand or a couple million? Where are
is
we
it
at?
is it seven figures to the left of the
Yes.
decimal? Is it eight?
Yeah.
Uh,
Um,
the the deal was from Front Office Sports. They said that Poach would owe eight figures if he took another Premier League gig, but nothing if he took a national team gig. So we're dealing in the reverse from what we understand, and it's just like, Michael Valverde's like he's hearing 10 plus euro, uh, and it's just like, bruh, cut a check.
yeah.
It's just this shouldn't be hard, like direct deposit, Western Union,
Yeah.
find a pigeon, get something done, man. This shouldn't be all that hard, but billable hours apparently are going to take over.
Yeah. I mean, look, he claims to have a lot of money. Prove that you have a lot of money. What I am interested to see, and I haven't seen any number yet, so you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I
Yeah,
haven't seen any reporting on this, what
right.
that salary could be
Yeah, I haven't seen anything.
here.
Yeah,
I think it's fair to say it will be less because I think we all understand that a national team job does take less physical time,
mhm,
right, and mental time. So you do get paid less. It's just a lower paying job, but I don't think he'll be going much farther down.
yeah,
And then, I mean, I know we joked about it, but what does that package look like, right? First off, what does the package look like? So
mhm.
is it, well, you're buying the house, I'm not. Is it you're paying the moving fees? Is it, well, I'm getting a share of, the Volkswagen Fayetteville
Ooh,
branch?
Mauricio Pochettino VW
Yeah.
dealership,
Is it, well, you're giving me a nice stock portfolio with Coca-Cola and all those.
Coca-Cola, Home Depot. Yeah,
Yeah.
you get that portfolio.
Um, is it I get my own Red Bull cooler a la Dana Holgerson? I'm not quite sure what that stuff is because I think those all kind of sweeten that pot. And that's something that, truly the US Soccer Federation and the US as a whole can offer a coach that a lot of countries just purely can't,
Mhm.
is the upside financial opportunities. And furthermore, who is chipping in to help pay a salary? Because now, granted, I, as someone who has been a sucker for U.S. soccer for many decades, I'm used to paying a lot of money to go to a game because they think that $65 for a U.S. women's national team friendly against Argentina in Louisville is an appropriate starting point for ticket prices. But that ain't equaling $10 million.
Oof.
Not that you can just pay a coach,
Right.
right? So I am curious, how much of Arthur Blank's money are they taking? Is
Mm.
it, are there others that we don't know about who are
Oh.
still involved? I mean, seriously, you've got a
Oh.
lot of European club ownership in the U.S. Todd Bowley and others, Texter, you name it. There's a billion. Seems like now every one or two in every league. Are
Mhm.
you able to get 1 or 2 million from all those guys, from some of the MLS guys, and say, okay, we can put forward 4, but we need to get to 8. Who
Yeah.
can help us get there? Um, and also the reality of it being, again, we don't know, but this is a 2-year job.
Mhm.
Get us through the World Cup in 2026, the home World Cup. Get us as far as you possibly can. Hopefully we're, playing till the final day. But after that, if he stays, great. But after that, we are looking forward. And maybe Poach is the guy who wants to take us forward. I don't know what his motivations are. It seemed to me that he was the prettiest girl at the prom. He could have picked anyone. And he's picking us, which is like an insane thought. But how long does he actually want to do it? Because that's an interesting point that I've heard kind of talked about is, well, why wasn't a coach like this available 2 years ago or a year and a half ago when we had to rehire Greg Berhalter and our options seemed to be Berhalter or Marsh, who just are not at that level? Well, I think the reality is no one wanted to take the job for 3.5, 4 years.
Yeah.
Now that you're at 2 years, less than 2 years, you're talking about also being able to be done with that job before the 2026 professional seasons begin, right? This seems for Poach, who dealt with PSG, a club where you're never going to win the Champions League because of a curse, because that's what happens when you get in bed with dirty money. And a team in Chelsea that can't get out of its own way. That is an opportunity to kind of rehab not necessarily, I mean, I think he was still really well regarded, but just kind of maybe rehab your own heart and soul a little bit. Because I think international management brings a whole lot more joy into the coaching and playing side because of what you're playing for. And so I'm wondering how much of that goes into his decision too, of like, man, I would enjoy not having the grind of having to be a Chelsea FC manager with a guy who is breathing down my back trying to sign every single player who exists.
Yeah.
And telling me how to play him. So I'm curious about what his motivations are. I'm curious to hear them from his mouth. And I'm also just curious how U.S. Soccer is going to pay for it.
Yes.
I'm not mad at it. But I think there are a lot of reasons why he'd want to take it.
You get that NIL deal and you get all that figured out. Berhalter published reports made 2.29. And you would anticipate that Mauricio Pochettino would probably be making a lot more than that. But then you sit there, you take that top line number, you add in all the perks, you add in all the NIL, you add in all of the stuff. It's like, well, if we give you, say, this, and then you get all of this stuff added on to where you don't have to worry about basic living arrangements and existence, and you get a fun 401k package involving Home Depot and Coke stock or whatever, There's I think this is probably going to be a very three-dimensional contract, for lack of a better way to phrase it, to bring him in under the umbrella when Todd Boehly finally does cut the check.
And again, I think that's the benefit, the main selling point that U.S. Soccer has is look at all of our partners who are based here in the U.S. and how we can set you up with financial investments, that 401k, your Roth IRA, whatever it is you're contributing to as U.S. Soccer for them. It does beat out a lot of other countries. I mean, if he was not going to be coaching in England, which granted, I think he could have if he really wanted to.
Oh yeah.
If he made his name known to Manchester United, I think they would have said, okay, well, bye, Eric, we're bringing in Poach.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if you even a lot of the, wealthy countries in England, France, Germany, they can't offer what the U.S. is able to offer in terms of those types of financial deals.
Yeah.
And that's something that I think U.S. Soccer, I'm hoping, is playing into and realizing. And part of that is, give them a good NIL deal. Give them the Nick Saban treatment.
Absolutely.
So yeah, we'll see at Bulldog Kia. Maybe it's, we'll see at Poach Kia. I don't know.
Mauricio Pochettino Kia. Looking forward to it. You back with us on Monday?
I am. I have a episode dropping today, recorded last night with Greg from For the Culture United and Ebony from, she does a lot of things, but a lot of Shea Butter and Diaspora and all those. So I'm going to tell you right now, John, you got to put that explicit label on this one because we were celebratory and we were not holding back.
Okay. Nothing wrong with that. All right.
No, because we won a 5th gold medal and people need to remember that we got a 5th gold medal.
There you go, brother. All right. So looking for another Soccer for US POD. We'll catch up with you on Monday morning.
Cheers, y'all.
All right, that's Bart. And so we're going to do a hot tag. Bart's going to enjoy his mug. And so that means that we bring in Michael Parkhurst for a quick visit. And so what's going on, Mogul in training?
Morning, John. Looks like you're on the road.
That is correct, sir. I am in Phoenix City, Alabama. I would open the curtain to show the Chattahoochee River off to my right. But yeah, it is the merging of the seasons where I'm doing stuff for both high school football on the road and all of this. And so it's like yesterday I was in a town in southwest Georgia, Bainbridge, and it was so hot. The gnats were basically like, screw you, we're not even going outside. And so you could tell, I mean, seriously, that's why I've got the mood lighting, because literally my face is so blank and red. And you can tell when I was driving north, you can tell what side of the car the sun had, because of, like when you're driving for like 2.5 hours or something and the sun's there and you walk out and you sit there and you go, man, how did I get my legs sunburned from driving? Yeah, got my face sunburned from driving yesterday, in addition to being outside on a shoot show. Yay me.
Yay, John.
Yes, so that's why I'm on. Yeah, so I am on the road. That's the short version, doing multiple things. And yeah, so I'm in a hotel room in Phoenix City, Alabama, and you are not.
Sounds lovely.
Well, I mean, it's a really cool thing what they did with the expansion of the Riverwalk area in Columbus, and so they put hotels on both sides of the Chattahoochee River. They do whitewater rafting and things like that over here.
Nice.
Yeah, you ain't catching me doing no whitewater rafting, brother. I'll watch. And I will watch the water go downstream, but I will not be participating in it at all. I know that we only have you for like 15 minutes, but I will take it. Let's go through some of the news of the day before we get into the mentoring and the mentoring updates, because I always like to hear that about what you and Greg are up to. It is alleged, Mauricio Pochettino, we had Bart Keeler on from the Soccer for US pod before you, and we were discussing the possible, probable Mauricio Pochettino to the USMNT, because apparently Chelsea still has to pay him. Chelsea's going to pay him before he can take the gig. That is the most inverse thing I've ever heard of. It's like, I'm no longer employed by you, but you can't take a gig until I finish paying you. I'd love to have a gig like that. But
honestly, who wouldn't?
But right now, it looks like it's leaning toward Mauricio Pochettino. They say it's going to be cool for him if he stays in Europe as the base of operation, to look at most of the U.S. guys that are currently on the national team roster. And we were discussing, NIL deals and things like that. You could have a Mauricio Pochettino VW dealership on the south side of Atlanta, 401k involving Home Depot and Coke to bring him under the umbrella. Your initial thoughts on Pochettino possibly, probably, perhaps being the new head coach of the M&T once he gets paid?
Yeah, I think it's a good signing. I think they had to go out there and get the best that they could, right? Bar no money. Like, this is the biggest hire in U.S. soccer history, probably leading into the 26 World Cup. So it doesn't guarantee that it'll go well, but you got to give yourself the best chance possible. So, I think that they've shown that they want to do that. So that's all you can ask for, right? Will it work out? Who's to know? But, I think we're giving ourselves the best chance possible going into 26. And so that's all you can do.
And you're bringing in a guy who's got the pedigree with the Premier League. And we all know that those kind of gigs, whether it's Premier League or PSG, all those high-profile gigs, they grind you up and throw you in a corner at point. And so, looking for a change of pace, and you're looking for someone who can hop in and be there for this. Literally, it's like it's a 2-year gig. It's not a 4-year gig or anything like that. It's like, look, get us into the World Cup, get us, with the deep run, and then perhaps, lean us toward LA 28. But it's like, look, this is the mission in front of you. You've got to do this. And a guy like that has this kind of a pedigree where he can deal with that kind of instant pressure to make sure that a national team in a home gig, in a home game of the proportions that the World Cup is, he knows what he's getting himself into here. And it's only a 2-year thing. The commitment isn't 4 years like we've seen with other guys who have national team gigs.
Yeah, for sure. The only thing that makes me a little nervous about the hiring is, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think he's ever coached a national team.
No, he has not.
Yeah. So just that, it's just a little different, right? That was the big concern about Berhalter is, it's different when you got guys day in and day out and you work with them, for 300 days a year versus national team and you're working them with, 30 to 40 days a year. So it's just so much different. So, I mean, we'll see how he adjusts to that. He's got to do it quickly and on the fly, and but he doesn't have to go through World Cup qualifying, so
Yes.
he doesn't really have to go win at Panama. So, honestly, so that's not a big concern, right?
No.
It's like, okay, can you win in the World Cup? And you're only going to play the best teams, and you're going to be playing in the U.S., or Canada or Mexico, but mostly in the U.S. So, that's a huge advantage. Where you'd be a little bit nervous about that for somebody that doesn't know CONCACAF, but that doesn't have to come into the equation.
Yep, you don't have to play at the Monsters cage in Costa Rica or anything like that. Are you cool with the idea of him still having his flat in London or Paris or wherever he is, as opposed to being anchored here in the United States to keep an eye on things?
I'm a bit surprised just because I know that they meaning US Soccer, previously everyone was out in LA, and then when Berhalter came in, it was like there was a big shift and everybody had to be in Chicago.
Right.
And so the whole staff had to live in Chicago, and so now they're going away from that pretty quickly. But hey, if you want to get one of the best and that was part of the deal, then hey, you got to be flexible, right? So yeah, I don't have a real problem with it, I guess, because I don't even know the U.S. schedule going forward here for the rest of the year and stuff. But
September 7th is the next friendly against Canada, and that's when folks initially are like, we'd like to have him in by then, but with the situation currently going on, it looks like U.S. Soccer is kind of relenting a little bit, and they're like, well, if we don't have him by this Canada friendly September 7th, then okay, we're kind of cool with it. I think that's where we are right now.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, hey, the majority of our rosters over in Europe anyways playing games. So if he needs to meet with guys, go to games and do all that stuff, and it's easier from over there, then so be it. That's more important than just, showing face in an office and all that stuff. So I'm fine with it.
Hi, I'm bringing in the donuts today. And it's that basically you're wandering in. It's like, I've got coffee and donuts for everybody. You come in on a Thursday, wandering into Soccer House. I got a communication from Rhode Island FC just while we were talking. So I'm going to do this. Okay.
Sound intro.
Rhode Island FC selects the Superlative Group to spearhead naming rights search for the stadium at Tidewater Landing. Global consulting group to bring 30 years of expertise to Pawtucket. It was announced while you and I are talking that the club has partnered with them, a global leader in sponsorship, valuation, sales, and consulting to spearhead the naming rights for RAFC's future home stadium. The state-of-the-art 10,500-plus capacity multi-purpose venue is set to open as the new home of Rhode Island FC upon its completion for the 2025 USL Championship season. So, Mr. Mogul, sir, things seem to be coming in good pieces for you.
Yeah, this is a big one. I mean, obviously, this is a huge revenue aspect for us, and we think it's probably the biggest naming rights in Rhode Island as far as venues. And so, it's an important aspect of the business for sure. So we're going to go out there and see what we can do. And hopefully it's an attractive proposition for some companies out there.
So let's see. We have a quote from Superlative Chief Operating Officer Kyle Cantor, another paragraph. A quote from RIFC President David Pert. I went with Pert because of Neil Pert from Rush. That was where I came up with that. If I'm off, let me know. Stadium GM Paul Byrne, and then notes about Tidewater Landing Superlative Group and Rhode Island Football Club. So that reminds me, I have to talk to Thomas Coughlin, who sent me that email about getting Kano on the show. So as you are wearing your RIFC lid, sir, what do you think about the draws turning into wins and being north of the playoff bar and in the fight in the Eastern Conference?
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice. It's we beat up on Hartford last weekend, and which was really nice. And they're trying to make it the rivalry.
El Trashico, yes.
So which is great, right? And we had a sold out crowd. We had a big one. We had good weather, and the team played phenomenal. They played really well. Hartford's a pretty good team, and honestly, we could have been 5 or 6-0. So it was a really good performance. It's great that they're playing well right now. So yeah, we just try and keep that rolling, you know.
Yes, and for those that may not know about El Trashico, your Google search for today is about the Danbury Trashers of the hockey league that was up north at the Point. So that would be part of your part of your homework. All right, before you get out of here, college season is now underway. High school is kind of getting underway. What are you and Greg up to right now with all of these seasons starting? How busy is it for you guys? What are the next stages here with Beyond Goals? Where are you guys right now as we sit here on August the 16th?
Yeah, starting to ramp things up. Honestly, the last 2 weeks has been a huge push to get the video library up and running, and I think it's going to start today, at least with our current mentees. So that's been the biggest push the last 2 weeks, just grinding away, getting that perfected and ready to go. So now the focus can shift back to the mentoring aspect of things and connecting with schools and doing all that. So yeah, we're excited about that. And there's been a lot of news in college, not just college soccer, but just college athletics sphere lately. So getting caught up on all that, and yeah, I'm excited though. I'm excited to watch some college games this year, do some scouting for Rhode Island, and yeah, I always enjoy it.
When you're piecing together the videos for the video library, how difficult is it to sit there and pin down the ones that you really, that's like, yeah, I think that would be great. Oh no, we've really got to have this one in there. We've really got, how difficult is the selection process of trying to figure out what videos you put in the library?
Not too difficult,
Throw them
because
all in there. That's what we're doing.
yeah, I mean, it's more like, hey, okay, I've already talked about that a few times, so let's skip that one. But there's so many levels, obviously, of play, and you want to make sure that you're hitting on a little bit of everything, right? So examples of like just passing the ball to the correct foot and what that leads to, versus like, hey, check out this one-on-one defense or whatever, right? So if I watch a game, I could probably get at minimum 10 things that I want to point out throughout a game of, hey, this check out what worked really well here or what didn't work, right? Good and bad things that we can learn from.
All right. Get out of here. I know that you've got stuff to do. Greg's on a flight heading to Texas. I know you've got stuff at BG Mentoring, at MF Parkhurst on the 280 character app, Beyond Goals Mentoring. What have I missed in the promos?
You don't miss a thing. You're a pro.
Oh, please, whatever. Stop. Give me a break. All right. Be well, my friend. Great to see you. It's fantastic to catch up with you, even if it is for a couple of minutes. Go have a fantastic weekend. We will catch up with you soon. And yeah, I've got to circle back and catch up with Thomas about getting Kano on the show. Now that you keep wearing the gear, you guys keep winning games. And so you're now having stuff continue with the stadium. I love seeing all this growth. I love seeing the mogul in training. I love all the things that you and Greg are doing with BGM. So get out of here. Have a great weekend. We'll catch up with you soon, my friend.
Sounds good. Hey, John, would you be all right with a tape thing with Kano? Because he can't do 9:30 on a Friday, probably.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we can always do we can always do tape things and roll them over. Absolutely.
All right, I'll email you and sort out a good time. I'll get him on.
Sweet. All right, get out of here.
All right, have a good weekend.
All right, be good. That's Michael Parkhurst. You might know him. Yeah, like I said, forever, I have been trying to get Kano Smith, the head coach of Rhode Island FC, on the show in some manner, way, shape, or form. And so, yeah, so it looks like we'll tape something with Kano, and we'll run that with RIFC as they are continuing to go. As we are talking, Carlos Bocanegra is having a media opportunity, and when the words, all the news items come out of that particular press conference, then what we'll do is we'll see if there's anything that is of news coming out of that briefing, and then we'll let you know what's going on there. So like I said, we'll keep you posted on anything that's going on with that this morning, and we will let you know, because we had the big discussion yesterday when I was in Cordele, and we were talking about everything that was going on with Atlanta United and the window and Atlanta United yesterday. doing some, I guess what, just some financial work in trying to have allocation money going from one place to the other and all that kind of stuff. So keep an eye on all of that stuff. And so obviously we will keep an eye on things involving Atlanta United. Yesterday, it became officially official that the Dibs deal involving Marco Royce with LA Galaxy became officially official with Marco Royce yesterday. And, as we've been discussing, it is not a surprise. So attacking midfielder under contract through 26. So this year and next, signed using TAM. So it's a TAM signing. Do not be surprised if through the length of the deal, this is one of those Chiellini, LAFC kind of Gareth Bale kind of things where it's a salary plus NIL and endorsements or whatever to keep him under the cap. But like I said, if we knew what the salary structures were and what the cap is, we do find out from MLS players once or twice a year, the MLSPA, what the salaries are. And we can sit there and go, oh, so that's what the salary was. So keep an eye on all of this. But right now, this sounds like one of those Giorgio Chiellini kind of deals. And it'll be through the 26th season to acquire Royce. I love how this is phrased. To acquire Royce's discovery priority, LA sent Charlotte $400,000 in GAM. Initially, we were hearing $350,000. So now the Dibs fee, which is what this is, it's Dibs. Charlotte sits there. Dibs on Marco Royce. Fine. Look, like I said before, let's just get dibs on like Jude Bellingham or something. And it's like, yeah, Jude Bellingham, dibs. We'll do that. Discovery rights are silly. Just look. Whoever wants to go should go instead of sitting there going, well, dibs on Kylian Mbappe. Dibs on Ivan Toney. Dibs on Marco Royce. Dibs on Ivan Perisic. I'm sure there's a discovery list somewhere. I'm sure that there's a discovery rights list. There's a dibs list somewhere involving Major League Soccer. So we'll see what happens. But apparently the cost of the dibs fee from Charlotte to LAG so they could get Marco Royce went from $350,000, which was the initial report, to $400,000. So we'll see what happens there. It's split across this season and next. And you get a quote from GM Will Kuntz in a statement where he talked about how good a player Marco Royce is. Look forward to Marco's contributions to the Galaxy as we enter the critical final stretch of 2024 and beyond. So spent the last dozen years at Borussia Dortmund, capping his farewell with a run in the 23-24 Champions League final, rose to prominence at Borussia Mönchengladbach, three-time German Bundesliga Player of the Year, 15 goals, 14 assists, 48 caps for Germany, 239 goals, 163 assists, 628 professional matches. And then there was the tweeting going on by LAG themselves. So now here's the attack for LAG down the home stretch this year and then next. Puig, Paintsel, Peck. The Killer Peas. Keith Costigan said that. I can't take credit. Diego Fagundes, Dejan Joveljic, who has been drifting in and out of being 100% healthy this year. Paintsel and Peck are your DPs. So basically the Killer Peas are all three of your DPs for LAG. And I feel like Robin Williams in the that scene from Good Morning Vietnam, where you're trying to keep Nixon's appearance on the QT so you don't wind up in KP. I feel like that's the way I am right now in giving all this information. So Vanny's team first in the Western Conference table at the Leagues Cup break. And not the first time, obviously, that LAG has signed folks like this. We all remember Beckham and Keane and Gerrard and the guy that said he conquered Major League Soccer in less than 3 years, Zlatan Ibrahimovic. So Marco Royce is now in the LAG fold. Charlotte transfers Brek de Jager to Belgium. And so that is a done deal. He has been transferred to KV Kortrijk. And that was announced this morning here in hour number 1. 13 months after de Jager joined from Ligue 1 Toulouse, 2 goals, 2 assists, 29 matches. He held a DP spot. And so he's been transferred back to Belgium to play at KV Kortrijk. And Zoran Krneta came out with a statement returning to Belgium and the club that gave him his start in professional football. We wish him nothing but success back home, end quote. and Charlotte is there. Malte Amundsen has been signed to a contract extension in Columbus. I don't think we got to that yesterday. Orlando City signed their super draft pick, Yutaro Tsukada. And Yutaro Tsukada selected 25 overall in the first round, 4 goals, 4 assists, and 12 starts for OCB. And he has been signed through 25, options through 26 and 27. Luis Muzzi had a quote of Tsukada, about Tsukada, once he signed. And so it took up 2 paragraphs and about 4 sentences of saying really nice things for Tsukada. Jason has been really high on Tsukada. And if I'm not mistaken, Tsukada came from West Virginia soccer. So big news there for Orlando City. So Yutaro Tsukada now on a first-team deal, 25, 26, and 27. The Loons acquired Anthony Markanich from All Caps. Markanich, up to $150,000 in GAM with a sell-on fee, and that was announced as well. So $50,000 in GAM, they could get another $100,000 in conditional GAM and retain a sell-on percentage if Markanich is transferred out of Major League Soccer. The chief soccer officer for Minnesota, Khalil El Ahmad, had 2 sentences of positivity about it. 24-year-old left back has a goal in 42 matches across St. Louis and the Rapids. Colorado selected him 26 overall first round in the 22 Super Draft, then traded to St. Louis. Then when St. Louis acquired Giannis Horn, Markanich slid down the depth chart, and he goes now to be in competition with Devin Paddleford and Joseph Rosales. Lutz Pfannenstiel said some positive things as well, and so that's the news there that happened yesterday and today. And so we'll see what we are looking at there. Charlotte acquired Pep Beal in a deal. Was a poet, didn't know it. Pep Beal was signed on loan from Olympiacos, and that was announced yesterday. 27-year-old Spaniard on loan through December of 24 occupies a DP slot. So De Jaegera's DP slot was outbound, creates a DP opening. You bring in Pep Beal, the attacking midfielder from Olympiacos, on loan for this season, so that DP slot just switches. Deal includes a purchase option. Once again, the other DPs are Liel Abada and Karl Świderski. Świderski coming back from his time at Hellas Verona. So we'll see what Świderski looks like in his return. And if Dean Smith is happy with what he sees involving Karl Świderski now that he's back. So your 3 DPs are now Beal on loan with a purchase option, Abada, and Karl Świderski. Quote from Zoran Krneta was incredibly positive. It's a couple of sentences, ending with everyone at the club would like to welcome Pep to Charlotte. Insert joke here. 53 goals, 41 assists, 277 professional matches, emerging at Real Zaragoza before going to FC Copenhagen. Spent last season on loan at FC Augsburg in the Bundesliga. Remember that the deal for Calvin Stings fell through, where it was thinking that it was going to be an $8 million investment to bring Calvin Stings from Feyenoord, but then Calvin Stings looked at the situation in Charlotte and was like, nah, fam, not happening. And so then Zoran Krneta and Dean Smith pivot to get Pep Beal in on a loan with a purchase option from Olympiacos to help out their attack. And that means that Ream and Beal are your 2 purchases, with all of the other talk that we had involving Charlotte and all of the folks that they were interested in. It ends up being Ream and Beal, your 2 pickups for Charlotte here in this particular window. So the other moves, I'm trying to recap all of the moves that we had that wrapped up the window. And there were some that were announced after the close of the window. So just because something happened, late, as long as you got, as far as I know, as long as you get the paperwork in by the deadline, by the Big Ben chime, fax machine's working, everything's cool. You get the paperwork in, it counts as a deal. You can announce it later, and that's how this played. Minnesota United signed DP Joaquin Pereira. So that was one that we had been looking at for a while, and that one finally got across the finish line from Atletico Tucumán. They announced that one. Joins as a DP, reportedly for $3.3 million under contract through 2027 with a club option for 2028. Another quote from Khalil Ahmad that was 2 sentences long, saying positive things about Pereira. Before the move, Pereira had 6 goals, 16 assists, 194 appearances with Tucumán, Famalicão, and boyhood side Rosario Central. Played twice for Argentina's U20s. And so Minnesota, in this summer window, they added DP forward Kelvin Yeboah, center back Jefferson Diaz, right back Matusz Kmet. Quote from Pereira, and Eric Ramsey has right now Minnesota in 9th place in the Western Conference. So they sign Pereira as a DP. Red Bulls signed DP midfielder Felipe Carballo. We mentioned that one briefly when it came across the finish line yesterday. So Red Bulls signed midfielder Felipe Carballo from Gremio, arrives as a DP on a year-long loan. New York also has a purchase option. Head of sport Jochen Schneider, in a statement, had 2 positive sentences before joining New York. Carballo registered 26 and 14, so basically a goal every 10 matches in his appearances with Nacional, Sevilla B, and Gremio. Represented Uruguay 7 times, won 6 trophies at Nacional. Named Uruguayan Primera División Player of the Year in 2022. And so the thought is that he will add stability to the midfield after Frankie Amaya went to Toluca. Adds midfield stability along with Daniel Edelman and Emil Forsberg. Remember, Forsberg is injured right now. So the hot start that Red Bulls had offensively with Forsberg has kind of been cooled a little bit, and they're hoping that with Felipe, they can get the offense back on track after the Forsberg injury. So Red Bulls are 4th right now in the Eastern Conference with that pickup now making it across the finish line late in the window. Nico Gioacchini, we mentioned that one yesterday. And so Gioacchini comes over from Como 1907, and he occupies a DP slot, which was opened after Aaron Bupenza's contract was terminated. And as we always say, nothing good ever happens after 1 a.m. And nothing ever seemed to be the same involving Aaron Bupenza after what apparently happened, what allegedly happened at the pizza joint in Cincinnati. And so Bupenza, who was not at practice for the last week of his existence in Cincinnati, apparently he was just hanging out in Cincinnati and doing the nightlife. And so Bupenza's contract was terminated, and so that opens up a DP slot. Nico Gioacchini comes in. He will occupy the DP slot. Chris Albright said a couple of sentences of positivity once it was released. And once again, remember, Gioacchini in the Bradley Carnell system with all caps did really well. Scored 10 goals in 32 matches last season for them. And so he goes from there to Como, and now he returns. So Como had returned from promotion from Serie B, played 9 matches for them with Serie B. Now that Como is in Serie A, they are one of the favorites to be relegated to head back to the knife fight in the phone booth that is Serie B. So Gioacchini, you're looking at FC Cincinnati hoping that they can get the same kind of output, or at least a complementary output to Diego, for Lucho Acosta, Yuya Kubo, etc., that Gioacchini proved as a primary in St. Louis. So doesn't have to give you 10 goals if he does great, but you're here to help us out with Kubo and Acosta and give us another option up front. So they're looking at those numbers and the output from all caps out there in St. Louis and saying, okay, just help us out, bro. Everything's cool. 3 goals in 8 appearances for the men's national team, most recently competing in the 2021 Gold Cup. And he also featured for Orlando City back in 22, 6 games after his time at Caen and Montpellier in Ligue 1. We do have some TV news involving Ligue 1 coming up in hour number 2. Gioacchini joins Kelsey, Kubo, Baird, Santos, Dottie Valenzuela at forward. Now he's their second signing this summer after center back Chiedozie Awaziem arrived from Boa Vista. Remember, we talked to our buddy Nino Torres about Boa Vista yesterday. Boa Vista is looking for funds, however they can get them. And so if they can get somebody to pick up a player, a distressed asset like Chiedozie Awaziem, then there you go. So Awaziem comes from Boa Vista. And, maybe you take a peek at Boa Vista and see what's going on there with Boa Vista. And perhaps if you are a club looking for help and distressed assets that you can get on a free after the season's over, Maybe that helps too. Remember that the Fire have a mutually parted ways with not so big Shaq, and so that big salary figure that cuts back into the kitty. It will be interesting to see what Chicago does to reinvest when it comes to losing not so big Shaq. I mean, remember at the Euros when not so big Shaq was done, he just kind of stayed. Fire was like, and Frank Lopez was like, yeah, we know he's over there. Everything's cool. We're monitoring the player. And so they monitored well enough to where they now mutually part ways. So that's not so big Shaq is probably going to be chasing after his next gigs and such in Europe. And he's going to be staying a lot closer to previous homes and previous locales and things like that. So not so big Shaq. Mutually terminated contract with Chicago Fire. That had moments of working, but not probably what either side had hoped when it came to success and levels of success. Also, RSL waived defender Brian Oviedo. So Oviedo is now in the market. Let me see if I've missed anybody or anything. RSL acquired Polish winger Dominik Marchuk. And we mentioned that Crew picked up Abraham Romero to help out in keeper from LAFC. Chicago Fire had acquired Eric Lassiter from CF Montreal. There is news from CF Montreal. Has to do with Joseph and the quotes from Laurent Courtois. We'll get into that. So Dominik Marchuk was acquired by RSL from Jagiellonia Bialystok. And so the Youth International signed through 28, occupying a U22 initiative spot, arrives before RSL reportedly transferred Colombian winger Andres Gomes to Stade Rennes in Ligue 1. Chief Soccer Officer Kurt Schmidt had a couple of sentences of nice things to say about Marchuk, who was at 13 and 18 in his career in 128 appearances. And so you have Dominik Marchuk, a proven champ at the age of 20, coming in. Young player of the season in the top Polish football league, the Ekstraklasa, and he was with the league champs there as well. So I think that catches us up on the transfer tracker. And the news out of Montreal. And I know that a lot of folks are monitoring what is going on just because. And so Laurent Courtois yesterday had his midweek press conference. And so there are things going on involving Joseph Martinez right now. And here's the transcription from the press conference, the gathering. It wasn't necessarily a press conference. It was like an after practice thing where everybody's a media scrum, for lack of a better word. So here's what Laurent Courtois said yesterday about Joseph Martinez. Quote, "There are egos that we try to control, and above all, one and everyone else is happy to be here and wants to progress. We want to have fun. We're keeping a close eye on Joseph Martinez because we're a little disappointed right now. There's a big discrepancy between the person I spoke to on the phone before signing him and what he's actually doing at the moment. So on a human level, for the moment, it's a big disappointment, but sporting-wise, it depends on what you base it on. Apart from that, I think there's a good atmosphere. We'd just like to perform a little better, be able to give back to the fans, but the group lives well." Question: were you surprised by this observation? At the beginning of the year, you were talking about him as a very positive leader. Yes. When did it change? Courtois: "I give you my hand until you betray me." So basically what that I'm interpreting that to mean basically I trust you until you do something that I give you a long enough rope, and I trust you until you do something to have me take that rope away. Question: at what point in the season did this start? Answer: Courtois: "Very recently. So we're working on that. We remind you and we coach the player, and then as we've done in the past with every player who's made a mistake. What's more, you have to differentiate between two things. It's either a deplorable attitude that I'm elevating a bit, which doesn't happen very often, or it's someone who makes a mistake. My job is to differentiate between people who make mistakes and let them know, and players who show you who they are. So it's two things to differentiate a mistake, and you want to correct, rectify, and coach, and someone who shows you his true colors, which you have to be vigilant about." And so that comes from Andy Coronado, and he is one of the co-hosts at TBIR Montreal, the Ball is Round Montreal podcast. And so he transcribed what was going on at the scrum yesterday, and Milton George, another one of the one soccer individuals that's tied to that network and does a bunch of different things. So Milton was there. The video is up, and that came from CF Montreal yesterday. So that is the latest involving Montreal and the latest involving Joseph Martinez. So it appears that not everything is all copacetic involving Joseph in his time right now with CF Montreal. And we will see where that continues to go involving Joseph, because Laurent Courtois says that about Joseph Martinez and his current status at CF Montreal. Obviously, we'll keep an eye on that and how it may or may not impact what's going on in the locker room. We'll keep an eye on Joseph and his appearances and his minutes and how things may or may not change involving Laurent Courtois and his response to Joseph Martinez in the current environment. So obviously, yeah, we'll keep an eye on all of that. It is past the top of the hour. So that means that Abby, have a good weekend. And there you go. All right. So let's say hi to everybody, and glad that everybody's hanging out here on a Friday. Morning Ropes, morning Alex, and morning David. And David, yes, we will be getting into the Premier League season. Happy Premier League season start. Good morning to everybody. Fix your fantasy teams if you do believe in that kind of a thing. And I learned that this season, in filling out my fantasy roster, I cannot have Erling Haaland. I cannot have him, Ollie Watkins, and have any kind of a balance on my roster. So basically, it ended up being like Watkins, Solanke, and another forward up top. I think it was Tony. I'm not sure, but it is a forwardless group without Ivan Toney without Erling Haaland in fantasy. So fix your fantasy teams appropriately. There's a match today. We'll get into juice boxes in the Premier League coming up here in hour number 2. Morning Ropes. I know that Ropes is going back and forth with Bart about national team coaches. Yes, Alex, Chelsea may be standing in the way of Poch because all London clubs are toxic. And that one's just for Bart. Yes. Once again, it is the day of the Premier League season. I need your predictions, folks. I need to know what you think about your club heading into this season. So here's your assignment for the rest of hour number 2. For those of you who are Premier League fans, I need to know what your club's going to do. I need to know how optimistic you are about what your club's going to do. And I need to know who you think is going to get relegated. And obviously, we will put this in the time capsule, and we will obviously we will continue to reference it as we go forward. So, what we do, once again, your club. What do you think about your club? Where you think they're going to finish? Who's going to get relegated? And if your club is not going to win the Premier League, who's going to win the Premier League? I know what Bart's answers are. It's going to be Arsenal, Arsenal, and Arsenal. I just don't have his teams that are relegated. So, your club, how they're going to do. If they're not going to win the Premier League, who's going to win the Premier League and who's going to get relegated? That's what I need to know here in hour number 2. Let's see. Morning Ropes. Morning Bam. Let's see. Morning Abby. Abby's suggesting that Poch live in Virginia Highlands. And Abby, Bart's mug was get it done, I believe. Or make it happen, I think. Make it happen. That was the mug this morning. Get it done, make it happen. So that was the mug this morning. Alex, involving the Pochettino house. Alex says he's going to get a 1978 split level in East Cobb. Maybe something out in out toward Lassiter High School or something. So somewhere out in East Cobb. And then he'll sit there and he'll look at some baseball pitcher who's like 6'5", 210. Hey, he can make a good center back. Michael Valverde is saying that the number is 10 million plus euros. So yeah, we figured it was an 8-figure deal that had to be discussed here. So yeah, Abby's got to get. So the new Abstermobile's windows are getting tinted next week, as you should. And then we took care of the bot. Abby, that in a contract is interesting, that you're no longer employed, but you cannot work or get another job until finished being paid. I know. It's just really weird. insert Premier League idea here. But yeah, Chelsea still has to, and that's the thing. It's like, look, I'm out the door. Honestly, look, if I pay you $1, can I get out of this deal? No, I can't. Okay, that's strange. But yeah, he apparently still has to be paid something from Bowley Clear Lake in Chelsea. So yeah, literally, if he takes another Premier League gig, he owed them like $12 million. If he took a national team gig, no such thing. And I'm guessing that's where the massaging of the contract is. It's like, okay, you didn't take another team gig, but you took a national gig. So therefore, we still technically owe you money in this process. Like I said, I'm trying to read between the lines here in a situation that is a head scratcher when it comes to logic. I'm guessing because it is a national team gig, you get the money that you're owed. No, you're not going to another Premier League team, which would have meant, okay, that contract's null and void. We bought it up, throw it in the garbage, and you go from there. So I'm guessing that's what we're staring at here is the fact that the national team gig has upset the financial apple cart here for Bowley Clear Lake, and they're still responsible to pay him for the remainder of his salary from when he was under contract. And so they've got to figure that out. If I'm Poch, I'm like, look, let's just split it in the middle. Give me 6, and we'll walk out. We'll shake hands, and everything will be cool. So obviously, we'll keep an eye on that. Alex, in the discussion about the national team, given we don't have to qualify, really hope we schedule a brutal slate of friendlies. Need to test the team and not coast into the World Cup. Hey, you do need to challenge yourself, because if you do end up going up against Tajikistan, Bhutan, the Solomon Islands, Andorra, San Marino as examples. I know that's not going to be the schedule, but if that is in fact what you want to be up against heavyweights, you want to be challenged, you want to make sure that you are number one, everything's lined up. All right, our guys are going up against tough guys. That's what you want, since you don't have to qualify. The schedule will be intriguing, to say the very least, as to how the U.S. men's national team is going to challenge itself when it comes to all of this material. That I'm looking forward to. I want to see how you challenge yourself. Bam, Canada, Mexico, and Panama will be the teams you play. We'll see. I want to be challenged. I want one of those teams that kind of flies below the radar that could come up and bite you like a Honduras. Something like that. Challenge me there. Give me a couple of South American heavyweights. Central American teams that are pains in the butt. European teams that are pains in the butt. That's what I want. What will the schedule look like from, say, September, when we know about the Canada friendly, forward? September 7th is it's like 3 weeks away. 30 days has September, April, June, and November, all the rest of 31. So 15, 3 weeks. 22 days. 22 days till that Canada friendly. And our friend Christian Jack has already laid claim that he's going to crash the show and discuss said friendly. And yes, and OG, yes, the subtext of Jesse Marsh will be a part of it. We'll get to OG's comments coming up in a bit. Michael caught the Detroit match at Rhode Island. Looked solid. Help me understand why Atlanta United needs a 2024 international roster spot. They got something cooking, but what it is, I don't know. And if you right now, I think the way that the league is operating on the whole is that if you are wanting to bring in someone, and I think this is outside of the Miranchuk deal, I think that your numbers added up to where you could announce Miranchuk. So this is separate from the Alexei Miranchuk deal. And I think the way that the league is now, that if you have an idea of a future transaction involving a player that is an international roster spot, you have to have that roster spot available first. In years past, it used to be like you get the player, you make all the space available, then everything's cool. I think now, as we look at things, you have to have the international roster spot. Then whomever your player is that you are looking at, then that would be where you are involving roster assembly. So once again, in the past, you could get a player, and then you worried about getting the international roster spot and all the machinations you needed to do. Oh crap, we need to get an international roster spot. You do a deal here, get some, spend some get a roster spot, you're fine. Now I think the league is operating in the inverse, where you've got to have the roster spot for a future transaction. You can't just bring in a player. Oh yeah, now we'll make it right. I think the way that Major League Soccer on the whole is operating now is you've got to have the spot in order to make a transaction. Whenever that transaction is, whatever that transaction is, you've got to have the spot available, then bring in the player, as opposed to make the deal and then make it work. So I hope, Michael, that makes sense. Bam's heading to bed. At least he was a half hour ago. I don't know how much longer he was going to be hanging with us. So we'll see what's going on there. Emilio, let's see. So I'm dealing with multiple computers here because of everything that is up and around. Miranchuk has received his visa. Thank you for the heads up on that. Plan to get him in market in coming days. Should be available for selection next Saturday against LAG. And the gathering of Carlos Bocanegra on, let's see. So Bocanegra says, not having a manager. This is a double negative. This is from our friends at Scarves and Spikes, by the way. Bocanegra says, not having a manager wasn't the reason for the club not moving forward with a signing. With the club getting an international slot, Bocanegra says, quote, there's still a possibility that a free agent arrives. And like I said, now the way that the league works is you get the spot, then you can fill it, instead of getting a player, then getting a spot. So the club getting an international slot, Carlos Bocanegra says, quote, there still is a possibility a free agent arrives. It's possible that Gregerson or, quote, a handful of other players can be bought down, working together with the league on it. And what you are looking at there, and so you are, and so that's the biggest things right now from the Carlos Bocanegra gathering on. He was asked about adding a striker. He said he didn't feel that there was a right fit, and you don't want to force anything that would lock the club up in for a long time. When you don't get a right feeling, you don't want to force it through. It had nothing to do with a player being too expensive, though. So that is, and so there's that from Carlos Bocanegra this morning on what he meant by finding a player that wasn't a right fit. I want to be 100% clear. This had zero to do with a financial impact or financial situation. Ultimately, we want to be stewards of the club and do what's right for our team. When a player's not the right fit, we have to pause or not make that decision to move forward. So that seems to be what we are hearing this morning from the Carlos Bocanegra media opportunity. So Carlos meeting with the media as of like 9:30-ish this morning. So that's where we are. It says not having a manager wasn't a reason for the club not moving forward with a signing. That's like a triple negative. But anyway, so international spot, still a possibility that a free agent arrives. And so that way, if you find the right free agent, then you can bring him in. So that's what we've looks like we're learning this morning from the Carlos Bocanegra media availability. Thank you, Emilio, for the link. Let's see. Abby is still waiting to hear what flag Miranchuk wants to represent, and so we'll keep its own. We'll keep open ears for that. And yeah, Seattle was admittedly quiet. They were, and our buddy Nico Moreno, who was on with us yesterday, he admitted, Craig Weibel, the GM for Seattle, admitted that it was one of the most frustrating windows that he's ever had as a general manager in trying to find players and find players and find players and not have anything come in. Weibel admitted yesterday to Nico in the assembled media it's one of the most frustrating windows he's ever had. So Seattle was quiet, not by their own design. They were chasing. Atlanta United, by their design, was chasing. And it's about finding the right fit. So that's where we are. Morning to the Orange and Black Soccer Cast. Morning ropes. Morning to the O&B. Yes. Rich, I am in a hotel room since we're in hour number 2, for those that haven't been here for hour number 1. It is that time of year where my worlds collide. And what I mean by that is tonight, here's your subtle plug. On Georgia Public Broadcasting, GPB, gpb.org, the GPB Sports app. High school football starts in earnest in the state of Georgia tonight. And we have a matchup at 7:30 that pits 2 of the top teams in the country. And it just so happens that because no one wants to play them, they're playing each other. It's Milton and Buford and a lot of college recruits on both sides. So we have that at 7:30 tonight. As a part of that activity, it is an opportunity for me to run around the state, and we have to cut some promos and we have to do some things and get everybody ready for the season. And there's some elements that we have to prepare for halftime and such, because now that we have matches of the week. Wow. Shows you where my head is. Games of the week that we have to go out and tape things. And yesterday, if you didn't catch the show yesterday, I was in another hotel room in another part of the state of Georgia. I was in South Georgia, had to drive a half hour east after the show was over. And that was why the show ended a little early yesterday, was because I had to check out of the hotel, drive to location number 1. So drove to location number 1 and then did what we needed to do at location number 1. Got in my car, drove 2 hours to Southwest Georgia, was there for a football practice, and then shot what we needed to shoot at the football practice, got in a car, drove 2 hours north. And as you can see, maybe by my face, like I said, I'm trying to shield my face just because it is so completely and totally sunburned. But drove 2 hours. I was not driving the 4 hours to go home after getting a start to the day and being out in 90-degree temperatures. Was not going to do it. I mean, I was kind of zoning out around dinner time last night. So I'm here in a hotel halfway between the town in Southwest Georgia that I was in and Atlanta. And so once I'm done with stuff here, we catch up with Steve Cook after we're off the air. Then I drive back, and then I change my clothes, and then I go to the site for the live game tonight. So I'm in a hotel room at a halfway point from a shoot yesterday, getting ready to go back to Atlanta for a big game tonight on our network. So on another network. So that's why I'm in a hotel room. That's the long answer long. And it is can I say? I guess I could say it's a Marriott. I mean, it's one of the Marriott properties. And so I always try when I'm in Columbus, I always try and stay at this particular hotel. Rich, with our predictions for the Premier League, Manchester United will finish 3rd, and I'll be happy for it. Morning, OG. It's been quite a while. Good to see you. The Soccer for Good OG. And Soccer for Good OG says, considering Jesse Marshall's able to get some decent competition as friendlies for Canada, think of what kind of connections Poch can get for U.S. Yes. And so Jesse Marsh was, and in a way, and this is something that we have to keep an eye on, is when is Canada going to be in enough of a financial situation where they can actually have a home friendly? They still have not had a home friendly recently because of the financial situation of Canada soccer. We've gotten into that. We will get into it more as it continues to develop under Jesse Marsh. But what you've seen with Canada friendlies is that they have basically drafted off of the United States. Oh, you guys are playing so-and-so? Okay, how about we do the same thing, and we'll do it in that facility. And so, what they're doing is they're scheduling on the cheap because they don't have the funds themselves to have home matches and schedule those. So what you're seeing is something was being paid for by other federations so they can come in the first place. And so then what they'll do is they will draft off of that and get that second home match. So that's what Canada Soccer does right now because they don't have the financial wherewithal to schedule home matches. And speaking of which, let me see what the deal is with Canada Soccer and what they have scheduled coming up. And we will see if they've actually scheduled a home game in the near future. Because in the past, traditionally, it has not been a situation where they've had home games. So national teams, men's national team. So we'll click on men's national team as we go here and look at Canada Soccer on the web. And we will see as the computer continues to think about schedules and things like that. So upcoming matches. It is the matchup on September 7 against the men's national team. And then they have one on September 10 against Mexico. So the game against the U.S. is at Children's Mercy Park in Kansas City. Then you have the matchup against Mexico on September the 10th, and those are the only two matches that they have planned. And that one is against El Tri at Jerry World. So once again, you're not having a home match. You're kind of traveling on the road. You're doing your thing. You play the U.S. in Kansas City. You play Mexico at Jerry World. You do not have a home game. The traveling Wilburys of soccer right now, the Canadian men's national team, they're playing on the road. They're not playing home games. So the two matches in September, Kansas City and Dallas. Kansas City and Dallas. That's what Canada Soccer is up to right now. Yeah, Emilio, yes. International slots in advance don't apply to Inter Messi and LAFC. Absolutely true. Or LAG, apparently, now that they've got dibs completed on Marco Reus. I will continue to say that it will bug the ever-loving crap out of me that we don't know what the cap is. And like I said, we know what folks are getting paid, but we know, like in July, how much space is left under the cap for a team. Who can they bring in? What can they bring in? What's the rate? What can they bring them in at? Like I said, I'd love to know what the Marco Reus salary figure is and how it fits under the cap and how much of it is doing commercials for In-N-Out Burger and for who else out there? Goodyear, since they're in Carson, California, right next, down the street from Dignity Health Sports Park, Herbalife. How much of this is salary and how much of this is NIL? I mean, look, the other day we started seeing Lionel Messi wandering through a parking lot of a Lowe's. We saw that during Copa. So you add Publix and Lowe's and all of these things to Lionel Messi's dossier. So he's getting paid 20, I think is the number, according to MLS Players. I think that's the total compensation package for Lionel Messi. Resources, salary guide. Okay, so here's the salary guide, MLSplayers.org, and you can click on banners and you can get down to see. All right, so Inter Miami. I have clicked on Inter Miami. Here are the salary figures as of April 25th for players. And not a Marco Reus, because that's a dibs figure, and we can get to that later. Jordi Alba, base salary $1.25 million, guaranteed compensation $1.5 million. Sergio Busquets, his salary went through the roof. Sergio Busquets, base salary, and I don't know why, but it's $4 under $8.5 million. Because he's a DP, you can pay him whatever you want, and it doesn't affect the cap. But base salary literally is $4. There's got to be something there with the family. $4 under $8.5 million. $8,499,996. There's got to be something there. Total compensation guaranteed $4 under $8,775,000. So that's Sergi Busquets. Drake Callender still is steal, by the way, at only $400,000 total. Campagna, 600 base, 722 guaranteed compensation. Checking the other big names. Okay, so Messi, base salary, 12 million. Guaranteed compensation as a DP, 20,446,667. So it's a 3-year deal for what? 892. So 40, it's like 40,900,000. Well, it's a 3-year deal. So it would be like 20.4 times 3 is 60. So like 61.2 million over 3 years for Messi. 20,446,667. So that to me means it's a 3-year deal to get back to an even number. So 12 million base, north of 20 million guaranteed compensation. That we know. Luis Suarez probably gets the salary adjustment next year. So, Suarez probably has your NIL deal this year along with Jordi Alba. Suarez, base salary, $1.5 million, guaranteed compensation, $1.5 million. So that's what it is with the studs and stars with Inter Messi. So LAFC, let's go to LAFC and check their numbers. So LAFC's numbers, most of them manageable, most under 7 figures. I'll check LAG too. Aaron Long, total compensation 1.3. Denny Buwanga, total compensation, base salary $2.92 million, guaranteed compensation $3,609,500. Paul Areola, I don't know why. Oh, LAFC. Okay, so literally, LAFC's numbers, if I'm reading them correctly, they only have Denny Buwanga north of 7 figures and Aaron Long north of 7 figures and Ilie Sanchez north of 7 figures. So literally 3 players make north of $1 million for LAFC. So the LA Galaxy numbers, Paintsel, 3.16 base, 3.358 guaranteed. Ricky Puig, 2.349, $4 under, so maybe it's a league thing. $4 under, $2,350,000. And guaranteed compensation, $4 under, $2,450,000. And so then if that's the case, what is it? So Dejan Joveljic, 683, 750. Paintsel. So what's Gabriel Peck making? Where is Gabriel Peck? Okay. So I'm momentarily confused why Gabriel Peck's numbers are not available. Oh, because it was after April 25. Okay. So we don't know what those numbers are. So, but just checking all of those, as Emilio says, international slots in advance don't apply. It's just whatever the salary figure is. So you've got those numbers that are there. And Emilio positing maybe the Seattle method, Lagerwey and Weibel, outdated. Don't know. I mean, you're still chasing after players, regardless of what your method is. And if folks aren't interested, for whatever reason, they're not interested. Most of and when Nick is on, Nick will make this point about European football, as a matter of fact. So the European player is drawn to New York, Los Angeles, Miami, maybe Chicago. The European player, because they don't quite understand or get that, okay, there's more to Major League Soccer than NYCFC, Red Bulls, Messi and friends, maybe Chicago, LAG and LAFC. They're looking at big city, they're looking at glamour, they're looking at shiny toys, and that's why other clubs are looking in other directions and trying to bring in players to sit there and go, hey, you know what? There's something to our market more than just, a name that you may not necessarily, comprehend. We are a big city. So there is some convincing that's done right now. The big European names, they want to go to New York. They want to go to LA. They maybe want to go to Chicago. They want to play with Messi. So right now, that's where they are. I don't know if it's a Seattle method that is outdated, because if you want to look for players that you're looking for in their late 20s or mid to late 20s that you want to stay for a while. Right now, you're seeing with Seattle how well they're doing in Leagues Cup. Zombie Sounders seem to have found their way, and that's with the players that they have. And then you try to add folks, and, it does take some convincing if you're a Seattle. So I don't know what the ultimate convincing has to be in a situation like this. I mean, you're trying to find the player that's in their 20s, early 30s, or mid to late 20s. You go, hey, look, you want to be a part of something? You want to be a part of a build? You want to be a part of something special? Then you can be a part of something special. So I think that it takes a lot of convincing outside of those 2, 4, 5, possibly 6 teams in Major League Soccer to try to bring in folks. So that's why you go to, distressed assets. That's why you go to South America to find the younger players. So there's other ways to convince folks that your club is the way to go. You want to sit there and go, okay, you come here, you can work insert team here. You can come to our market. You can come and be a part of something. You can be a part of the next stage of your career. And then from that next stage, what you can do is you can sit there and find that European offer. You can ply your trade here, like we saw with Thiago Almada, ply your trade here, and then in a multi-club model, you can go to Botafogo before you go to Crystal Palace or Lyon. So you can work here, wherever here is, ply your trade, be moved on to that next one for the bigger payday, help out the club that you're at, help them achieve what you achieve, and then move on. So that's where I think outside of the 6 shiny clubs that you're looking for players that you think can help you and help themselves get to that next level, get to that next larger payday, and figure out what to go from here. So that's it's a challenge right now. While MLS is growing, the question that I've always had from the second that Inter Messi was created, what do you do after the fact? You continue chasing after that next star, the next star, the next star. That is going to be the challenge for Major League Soccer. It's going to be a challenge, frankly, for Messi and friends and Inter Miami. What does Inter Miami do for an encore? They were not able to get Sergi Roberto in the window. They were not able to get anyone else along that vein to get the NIL deal to come in and help things out. Like I said, I'd love to know, and I don't know how. I'd love to know how all of the stuff fits under the cap. But once again, because the cap is not made available to us, we don't know what the struggle is. We don't know what the struggle is for teams as they try to chase after players and availabilities and, okay, we can pay you X, and then we can pay you this. More updates from the Q&A with Carlos Bocanegra. Bocanegra says that Miguel Almiron's agent reached out to him while the transfer window was open, and that they had a general chat. So that's where we are. Jarrett dropping by here to wrap up the week. What's on your mind, brother?
Oh, nothing much. It's the end of the week. Thank God it is Friday. Jesus.
Yes.
Where are you at today?
Oh, I am in Phoenix City, staring at the Chattahoochee River outside my closed window. It was a halfway point from the sunburned experience that I got in Bainbridge yesterday.
Yeah, I can see you got a little color on you.
A little more than that. And then driving north on US 27 for the 2 hours leaving Bainbridge and getting to Columbus, Phoenix City. You end up getting more sunburn because the left side of the driver's side of the car is getting the western sun as it's going down. So I'm getting pounded by the sun for 2 hours while I was being pounded by the sun at a football practice. So
this is fun.
Oh yeah, absolutely it is. So that's so you get pounded at practice, and then you get pounded while you're behind the wheel of a car, and then you go home, and the boss looks at your left quadricep and goes, "How did that happen?" And you go, well, the sun came in through the car and I was sitting for 2 hours. And so literally there's that 6 inches from like the knee halfway up the quad where you can see where the shorts were. And you end up with more of a sunburn there as well. So, so that's what that's what you're staring at here. So yeah, after the show and after catching up with Steve Cook, getting ready for Atlanta United 2 and their matchup this weekend against Messi and Friends 2 down in Fort Lauderdale, and getting some editing done, we head north and get ready for Buford and Milton tonight on GPB. And I was explaining that in hour number 1. It's like, why are you in a hotel room for the second day in a row? And I said, this is when the season, when everything blends together, and it's like, which one of me I am right now. And so it's this particular time slot, it's the SDH version of me. And then around 1 o'clock or 1:30, when I hop in the car, it converts to the high school football version of me for the game tonight. So plus the sunburn. So we got that. So we got all that squared away. So
It's fun.
Yay team. We're kind of going over the greatest hits from the Carlos Bocanegra press opportunity and going over that this morning, and going over, we got the Premier League to talk about because that season kicks in. All of the stuff from Carlos's opportunity, what happened with silly season, transfer window closing yesterday, LA picking up Marco Royce. We went through all of the other transactions that folks did that got under the wire, and Carlos saying that the international slot that was picked up is on the possibility that you could have a free agent come in that's available. But right now, apparently, the way the league is operating, you have to have the space to bring in the player. You can't just have the player and then create the space. So apparently,
this is a change too, because in the past we've seen teams like make deals, announce players, like press release comes out, and then like a day or two later they'll get the spot. And I think a lot of it was always like, as long as you're in compliance by the deadline, it was fine. This seems like it's a change of pace, because we know they didn't announce the Alexei Miranchuk deal until the international slot was grabbed. But it does give you flexibility. We'll see what they do with the extra $1 million in GAM that they can use / the extra U22 spot.
Yes. And that was the other thing that we need to get into this morning, was that it was announced that each club now, for the remainder of this season, had it announced publicly by Major League Soccer which road you're going down. Are you doing 3-3 or are you doing 2-4? And for the remainder of this year, Atlanta's going 2-4.
Yeah, and you can change it next year going into 25. I would imagine you would change it. Mostly because I don't think you can operate as a club of Atlanta's size and one that carries that reputation and has talked as much talk as you've talked over the last 3 months and only carry 2 designated player spots.
Right.
I don't think you can do that. Some of the comments today from Carlos Bocanegra reminded me kind of what I said yesterday, which was so much of this feels self-inflicted, that you talked so much game before the window about how important it was, how you were going to go big, this, that, and the other. And then you made the one signing with Miranchuk with the DP spot. You brought in a left back replacement for Caleb Wiley, which seems fine so far. But some of this feels self-inflicted. You didn't need to go out there and beat your chest and talk about how big it was and how big the window was, and how you wanted to go ball out with $40 to $50 million. You just let the business do the talking, because then when you either don't get a deal across the line or you don't find exactly what you're looking for, then you kind of have to pull your foot out of your mouth. And then that's kind of tougher.
Mm-hmm.
But the Almiron thing was talked about, that MLS still operates in the entity of two teams can't compete against each other for the same player. So like if Charlotte's in negotiations with him, Atlanta can't jump in there and turn into a race. This isn't like European clubs or the rest of the world that aren't single entity. It is one of the things.
It's not an auction situation where you can sit there and go, well, what do I get for this player? And the auctioneer starts the bidding, and then it's not like you're all in a room and you raise a raise a paddle to sit there and say 6 million. It's not like that.
And see, Emilio, I don't think it's a matter of like thinking we're RSL and going small. I think they went big. And I'm kind of torn. The further we get away from the black hole that was decision day, I am torn on it. I am disappointed with the total outcome of the window because you talked a big game and created these expectations that you were not able to follow through on. However, you didn't.
However,
it sounds like the Uzbek player from Roma didn't come through because they weren't convinced. They didn't want to bring him out on like a $4 or $5 million deal. It sounds like they wanted him on loan.
Yeah,
but you didn't panic buy a DP,
right?
And I am disappointed that you didn't swing a like $15+ million deal when you have that kind of money,
right?
But I think I would have been more disappointed had you panic bought someone at 7 or 8 who doesn't really fit, who may not want to be a part of the project long term here. Right. And by project, I know that word people take it differently. But being a part of Atlanta long term, I would rather I'd rather be disappointed with the lack of activity than be disappointed by you dropping $7 million on somebody when it may not be the right fit. It may not be the right guy. So it's disappointing. It could have been more disappointing, I think, in that respect. Like if you had dropped 7 or 8 on somebody just to do it. Just like I said, just kid going to the toy store, buying a toy just because they have the money, not because they actually want the toy.
Right.
So I'm disappointed in that regard, but it could have been worse. I know Bocanegra mentioned they had informal discussions with Almiron's agent. Hey, man, winter window rolls around. Yeah. You don't want to bring a 30-year-old in who can play in the middle or play on the wing, and who would be arguably the biggest PR win for this club. Go right ahead, man. Let's have those conversations. But yeah, it's Hawaiian Tropic Silk Hydration After Sun Lotion. Yeah, I've got a I forget what I've got. I've got like an aloe lotion that I use for just like a daily moisturizer, just to keep my skin moisturized, so that I'm not resembling a crocodile sitting on the banks of the water. Yeah. But it also has aloe in it, and I use it when I do get sunburned out playing sports. So yeah, I think it might be that's Hawaiian hydration.
Yeah, I get to the point now where I actually will put either sunscreen or aloe or whatever physically in my hair, and it almost looks like I've Pat Riley'd myself, and it's just like I've completely and totally just pocketed everything. Yeah, but no, I will rub in SPF 50 in my head.
And so yeah, to finish that thought, Emilio, like that was actually one of my concerns is that that Garth would go smaller, but I think he and Carlos swung big. They got Mananchuk, which I think will be a very good get.
Yeah.
But I think they did swing big. They just didn't connect. I think they went big with the budget they had. They just didn't connect. But obviously you have to connect in the winter. You'll have a manager in the winter too, and the winter there will be a lot of moving parts with that, a lot of rumors. It will be
you thought
it'll be interesting.
You thought silly season was silly now?
Yeah, and it was, but when you get manager rumors kicking up and you do get a manager, all of that's going to kick into gear even more. And MLS's offseason is so short, it's going to be a flurry of activity, and there are going to be high expectations. Whether or not they meet expectations depends on them. It depends on the players that are available and who wants to be here or not. Because at the end of the day, if you put stuff in place and you got a guy you want for $18 million and you want him to come here and he doesn't want to be here long term, then this isn't FIFA. You can't force it.
Yeah.
David, I burned on my shoeless feet. Actually, but the fun part of my feet is I actually own a pair of Chacos that when it's over 80 degrees, I like to wear out and about. So I have like the Z-shaped tan lines on my feet from Chacos, which now that I've worn them in and beaten my feet to death with them are my favorite things to wear, especially when it's not freezing cold outside. So I have like weird like Z-shaped tan lines on my feet. But otherwise, yeah, I would like to go barefoot everywhere, but the world is not really accommodating to going barefoot.
No. The decisions that were made by clubs, I found the list.
Okay.
Atlanta is going 2-4. They're going the U22 initiative player model for this season. So basically, the guideposts put forth by the league. Here's how they describe it. They announced roster construction models for the remainder of the season. Key component of the roster rule enhancements announced on July 18. Clubs will have new flexibility, increased control, creative control over the allocation of discretionary funds with 2 different roster construction models, allowing clubs to spend according to their individual roster building philosophy. I feel like this is where, in the Oscars, this is where you have the MC discussing the briefcase and all of the guidelines for the announcement and the analysis of the Oscar winners. I feel like that's what I'm reading right now. Clubs had until the close of the secondary transfer window to declare their model. I declare, 19 clubs selected DP. The remaining 10 opted for the U22. The previously announced DP model allows clubs up to 3 designated players, up to 3 U22 initiative slots. The U22 initiative player model provides the option to exchange 1 DP roster slot for a 4th U22 and up to an additional $2 million in general allocation money. In 2024, clubs who elected for this model will receive up to $1 million in general allocation money due to midseason implementation. So here's who chose what in alphabetical order. Atlanta and Austin chose the U22. Charlotte chose the DP, and of course, when you bring in the third player, as you send DeJagera on his way, and then you bring in Pep Beal, then that's why you end up with 3-3. Chicago went U22, and obviously, if you send not so big Shaq on his way, that creates kind of a default opportunity for you.
I do not think they have the resources for that, the facilities for that, big man.
Yeah. So they went U22. DP models: FC Cincinnati, Colorado, Crew, DC, Dallas, Houston, Sporting, LAG. Once again, no real surprise with LAG, considering that they dibbed and dropped $400,000 to Charlotte to get Marco Royce. LAFC went U22 model, considering that they only have, since they only have the 2, what are we going to do for the remainder of the season? We ain't changing, so it makes sense for them to go 2-4. Inter Miami, Messi and friends went U22 model. So once again, with everybody that they have who's high priced, who is a high TAM, you don't have to go 3-3 for the remainder of the season. And of course, getting that extra $1 million in GAM helps them out in deferring salary figures and lowering folks so they can be under whatever the cap is. Minnesota United went DP model. Montreal went U22. Nashville and the Revs went DP model. NYCFC went U22. Red Bulls and Orlando went DP model. Philadelphia, Portland, RSL went U22. San Jose, Seattle, all caps, Toronto, and Vancouver went DP model. So that's your 19 and 10 as broken down by the league yesterday, with the models for the remainder of the season being either 3-3 or 2-4. So that's where everybody stands with the 10 matches or 9 matches left in the regular season. So that's what the decisions have been, and that's where we are heading into the stretch run here for the 24 season. Any surprises for you at all, or
kind of like where you're at right now with all I guess, like I said, the thing is this can be reset in 25. So to my knowledge, so whatever you left the window with, you're going to declare, okay, we only got 2 DPs. We're not bringing another one.
Yeah. So
there's no free agents that are going to fit what we're looking for right now. Like, is someone going to go out and give Memphis a bunch of money?
Oh boy.
So you have, if you're there, just give us the U22 spot. We might not use it. Like,
Mhm.
I don't expect Atlanta to use theirs necessarily. Maybe they, I don't know, maybe they do, because Sosa's not coming back. I imagine he's killing it in Argentina. I imagine he'll be down there for good. I don't know if Mosquera comes back. I don't think Abada comes back.
Right.
So maybe you grab maybe some clubs look at a U22 that fits under that initiative, but at the very least you get more GAM to pay stuff with. And yeah, like it's like, if you're not going to use that third DP spot, you'll just forfeit it for the rest of the regular season.
Yeah, doesn't matter.
If you are looking around and saying none of these free agents out here fit what we're looking for, that would be DP caliber.
Right.
Nah,
we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, so like, if you're Atlanta, you did what you did, and you grab the extra international slot just in case. You never know what pops up.
Correct.
And everybody's always looking and scouting and negotiating and seeing what they can find. And free agents, especially now that windows are starting to close, free agents will start to get a little more squirrely about their agents. Will be reaching out. Hey, how you feel about this guy? I want to see who gives Memphis money. I don't know that it would happen in the United States, but I want to see who that person is or who that club is. And then I want to see questions and answers. So, yeah.
I mean, Stephen Glass and Memphis 901, they have...
I'm in Memphis Depay.
Oh, Memphis Depay.
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
For talking free agents.
Oh, I was thinking you go to Memphis 901 and grab
No,
Stephen
I'm talking about free agents. I'm talking about the Dutch mercurial striker weird guy who was wearing a headband out there like it was early 2000s Jason Terry.
Okay.
I'm talking about... Okay. No, I'm talking about Memphis Depay.
All right.
I'm like, somebody, I'm surprised somebody didn't just shell out already. Be like, you know what? Let's take a flyer on this psychopath.
We'll kick the tires on Memphis Depay. No, I can see.
No, I'm not talking about 901. 901 won over the midweek, but we'll talk USL soon enough.
Yeah, no doubt. By the way, quick programming reminder: later this afternoon, it's our weeklies with USL League One and with MLS Next Pro, USL Championships. We can review the review preview. That'll be up a little later this afternoon as well, as a part of the feverish editing that goes on a late week when it comes to everything that goes on here at the SDH Network. College started this yesterday, so it was a very, very busy day on a bunch of different fronts. Maddie and the Dream, Mateen the Dream, they were able to call a piece of history up at the Fraction yesterday, as Kennesaw State is now a part of Conference USA, and they had their first matchups yesterday. Women's soccer was taking over yesterday. You'll have men's soccer on College Campi taking over the rest of the weekend. So it was Maddie and Mateen the Dream up at Kennesaw. Jason was calling Georgia State, and if you aren't aware, we have started our weekly programming with Georgia State, and Panther Prowl is the weekly program that we have that catches up everyone and everything going on with Georgia State soccer. And we're going to have the coach from Georgia Southern on Tuesday, because right now they're kind of busy. They're in Hawaii. They're playing in Hawaii, by the way. And so they're playing in Hawaii. Then when they come back, we're going to catch up with Southern. So Southern will be with us on the Tuesday show. And we're going to be previewing all of the college scene, because there's a lot of schools. There's like 30 schools in the state of Georgia on the university level, on a bunch of different levels, D1, D2, NAIA, all the points in between. So we're going to try and catch up with as many of them as we possibly can. We'll post those previews, and we'll kind of keep an eye on them as we go this season. And we'll let you know what's going on the college scene. So Soccer's in Session is back up and running, involving college previews. But, it was a fun night for us on a bunch of different levels, calling Kennesaw State's new turn into Conference USA, Georgia State on a Bree Barley header getting a late equalizer in their match, and Jason was calling that on ESPN+. And so it's all over the place, and we're going to have it covered for you as we go. So, college is underway, and that's just another part of everything that's going on. So when you thought it was slowing down, the summer of soccer is not slowing down one damn bit. Not one damn bit.
But yeah, Yeah, college is kicking up, and then we have you and I are entering high school football mode. And like I have to go do a game tonight.
Yes,
we're back.
Yes, we're back.
Oh boy.
Alex.
Hey, the good news is Alexi Maranchuk's visa came through, so it'll be available.
True. Absolutely true. And so,
hey, shout out to the people in the Atlanta United work in the State Department to get that done.
Woo, you ain't kidding. When you have when you have all of those contacts that you have, it's like, hey, look, this is coming, and so it's going to be and then when it does show, then it's turned quickly. But yes, so Miranchuk should be available for selection against LAG. Alex says they watched the GSU soccer match last night. Daughter moves into her dorm on Sunday, getting hyped about her new school. It's that time.
Georgia State's going to be interesting. And Georgia State soccer continues to be good. As we shift programming for a second, Georgia State football is going to be a weird animal this year because Sean Elliott did a. I'm sorry, you say whatever you want. He did a dirtbag move. Sean Elliott left in the middle of the night right after signing day to take the South Carolina job.
Are we sure his last name isn't Irsay?
I did not care for Sean Elliott, and that opinion did not improve when he just dipped out for a South Carolina assistant coaching job.
Yeah.
After all the scouting and signing day and recruiting was done. I think it's Del McGee took over. I think they will be fine in the long run. This is very much like almost a year -1 for Del McGee for me.
Yeah, I think so.
This Del McGee took over, right?
Yeah.
I was like, I didn't make that up, right? This is like a year -1.
No.
He's coming in to a team that's not his own, having to take over very late in the proceedings. This is nothing he really does this year, short of like physical violence, is going to be held against him in my book. Man, we'll see. Sun Belt is not for the faint of heart.
No.
Sun Belt soccer is not for the faint of heart either, or baseball. We have this discussion in the Discord all the time. Sun Belt baseball is just like it's like throwing 2 Wolverines into a burlap sack.
Yeah, about right. Let's see. The picture by Fabrizio Romano, by the way, has been posted of Not So Big Shaq signing with Basel. So, wasting no time, he goes back to Europe. Sherdon Shaqiri could not look any less interested in taking the photo that was taken. So go to if you are so inclined, go to Fabrizio Romano's Twitter account, his 280 character app account, and Not So Big Shaq looks like he's over the whole experience already. It's like, take the effing photo, get me out of here. As he's doing all of the things that you do when you're running the promo wheel. Not So Big Shaq is like, are we done yet? Literally, that's the look on his face. That is the absolute look on his face with this photo. So let me grab the link and I'll post it into the Twitch pitch. But yeah, Shaqiri is over the whole experience. He is literally over the whole experience. I'm not kidding. Whew. Not a happy man. So there's all of that. But let's see if there's anything else. Obviously, the Premier League kicks off today. We got juice boxes with all of that. Let me get to the matchups really quickly, and we can kind of let you know what's going on there. You get a new episode of the Soccer for US POD because Bart sent it to me. That's going to be coming up later today as well. And I can't quite say England the way that Jason does, so I'm just going to say that the Premier League is up and running. Later. Yes. All right, so Premier League juice boxes, just so you know, and as we always sit there and say, make sure that you have enough juice boxes to make sure that if you invest in juice boxes, that you only have the same number of juice boxes and do not damage yourself when it comes to your purchase power. Manchester United favored today against Fulham, and they're at a -161. Tomorrow, the early kick is Ipswich and Liverpool. Liverpool on the road's a -312. Ipswich did a really cool promo involving new shareholder Ed Sheehan, and he's behind the wheel of a tractor because they're the Tractor Boys, and he's singing Thin Lizzy, and so it was pretty cool. Arsenal, a big favorite at home against Wolves. Everton and Brighton. The Juicebox purveyors threw a blanket over the whole thing. The numbers are dead even across the board. Newcastle, big favorite at home against Southampton. Nottingham Forest, favored at home against Bournemouth. Bournemouth signed Evan Ilson to a big deal, $47 million, I think, in the transfer. And West Ham, favored at home against Aston Villa. Sunday, 2 games. Brentford, favored at home at the G-Tech against Crystal Palace. Chelsea, a big underdog at home against Manchester City at a -114. And Monday Night Football, to them, not to us, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Leicester, a big underdog at home at the King Power. Spurs come to visit with your boy Ange at a -167. So that is your juice boxes for weekend number 1 of the Premier League, and a soccer returning to England. There you go. That was close. So anything else on your mind before we get out of here?
No, not really.
Okay.
College football Friday, or high school football Friday.
Yes.
College football starts soon. College soccer starts soon. Have fun with it all.
Absolutely. So since it is Friday, there is the way that we always end the show, or at least we do now. Because
I got you covered.
Yeah, it is a way now to make sure that that we do the proper send off heading into the weekend. And I know that a lot of you were wishing that I would do my normal send off, but I figured I would yield to the professionals.
It's Friday, gotta get down on Friday. It's
So
Friday.
there was that. But we decided
Back to 2009, buddy.
we're going this way.
Keys on the typewriter had sharp points that kept sticking into our fingers. The dictating equipment started asking us questions, and our beepers sent electric shocks just through our body like a cattle prod. Out in the warehouse, the trucks kept banging into the docks, not even thinking about stopping. Oh, our frail bodies were strapped to the chairs, and our chairs were chained to the desks. Our pleas for justice were ignored, and the end seemed near. But we busted our slave drivers' little bitty balls. We've charged out of their brick fortress. The streets are ours because it's Friday! Friday! Friday!
That's how you end a show on a Friday. That's how we've decided from now on. We're going to end the show on Friday. With
No idea what just happened.
That's it's probably something for a demographic slightly older than you. That's the old
Yeah.
Friday 5 o'clock whistle, at least the short version from our friends at 96 Rock when they were a rock station.
Oh, no, I remember it. I just didn't expect it.
Yeah, so we start with the short version and we end with a longer version. So we're going to put up the full screen, and traditionally we would whistle us out, but since we already ran the Friday 5 o'clock whistle, we're going to go ahead and head out the door. So for Jarrett and everybody else, thanks for hanging out for another week of SDH. Keep an eye on your notifications for all the stuff that we're doing. We ain't stopping because the summer of soccer ain't either. We will catch up with you over the weekend with the Twos and Inter Miami on Sunday, and we'll be back Monday morning with a new week of SDH. Play it safe, everybody. Enjoy the game.